Between towering mountains and lush valleys, an isolated village held stories of pain and resistance. The harsh winters and scorching summers shaped not only the landscape, but also the souls of those who lived there. 12-year-old Miguel carried in his eyes the deep longing for his mother. His brown hair and sensitive expression revealed a delicate soul that found solace in nature. Orphaned and subjected to the tyranny of his stepfather, he secretly nurtured the hope for better days, seeing in the animals and the memories of his mother his only refuge of peace and love. Miguel's routine was marked by a succession of challenges that tested his young and fragile existence. Each dawn arrived before the sun even rose, with Carlos, his stepfather, shouting orders that echoed through the rooms of their small wooden house. The animals waited impatiently as Miguel battled sleep and fatigue, preparing for another day of exhausting work. The tasks were endless: feeding the chickens, milking the cows, cleaning the stables, and gathering firewood for winter consumed every moment of his energy. Carlos watched every move with critical and harsh eyes, always ready to criticize or punish any imperfection. The harshness of his words cut deeper than any tool, leaving invisible scars on Miguel's sensitive soul. Yet, not all oppression could completely extinguish the light of hope that resided in the young boy's heart. During the brief moments of rest, Miguel found comfort in the animals he cared for. The old horse, with its gentle eyes, seemed to understand his silent pain. The chickens greeted him with soft clucking that sounded like songs of comfort. The memories of his mother were his true refuge. In his thoughts, he revisited moments of affection, warm embraces, and the stories told before bedtime. These memories were like a balm that eased the harshness of his current reality, allowing his spirit not to bend completely under the weight of oppression. Carlos represented more than a stepfather. He was a tyrant who had turned their home into a prison. His constant criticism, frequent insults, and physical punishments drained any attempt by Miguel to feel joy or hope. Each day, the young boy battled not only with physical tasks, but also with the internal struggle to maintain his dignity and dreams intact. At night, exhausted, Miguel allowed himself to dream. His eyes gazed out the window at the starry sky, imagining worlds where love and understanding prevailed. In those moments, his connection to nature and to the memory of his mother sustained him, promising that this would not be his reality forever. Life in the village seemed to conspire against his dreams, but Miguel secretly nurtured a flame of hope. Each task completed, each moment of adversity endured, was a silent step towards his freedom, holding in his heart the certainty that one day his story would be different. Carlos's oppression over Miguel reached increasingly painful contours, revealing itself as an invisible web that gradually suffocated the boy's dreams and hope. Each day, the distance between the desired freedom and lived reality seemed to widen, like an impassable abyss, slowly consuming Miguel's spirit of resistance. The moments of greatest tension occurred when Carlos discovered any imperfection in the tasks performed. His penetrating gaze carried a cruelty that went beyond words, communicating a deep contempt that reduced Miguel to less than an object. The criticisms were not only verbal, but also gestural, with sharp movements suggesting a constant physical threat. Miguel's loneliness intensified. In the village, no one seemed willing to intervene, as if oppression were a natural part of the established social order. People averted their eyes when the young boy passed, as if his existence represented a silent discomfort that no one wanted to acknowledge. This social isolation heightened his feelings of abandonment and helplessness. Miguel's dreams, once colorful and hopeful, began to morph into gray nightmares. Each night, his imagination shifted between the warm memories of his mother and the distressing scenes of submission. The fear of Carlos inhabited not only the physical spaces, but colonized his psyche, creating invisible barriers that limited his ability to envision a different life. Nature, once his refuge, began to lose its charm. The animals that once comforted him now seemed complicit in his suffering, silent witnesses to his oppression. The green fields and the serene brook lost their color, transforming into monotonous landscapes that mirrored his inner state of desolation. Carlos symbolized more than an authoritarian stepfather. He embodied all the injustices Miguel had endured. His presence reduced the boy to a state of social invisibility, denying him not only basic rights, but his very human dignity. Each day, Miguel felt his identity slipping away, leaving only a body performing tasks without a soul. Hope, once so vivid, began to dissipate like morning mist. Miguel understood that his situation demanded more than resignation. He needed to find an inner strength capable of breaking the invisible chains that imprisoned him. His survival would depend not only on physical resistance, but also on a profound transformation in his understanding of freedom and self-worth. Amidst mountains that embraced ancestral secrets, an incident would forever transform Miguel's fate. On the afternoon, when the storm traced the sky with its fingers of light and shadow, the young boy discovered, hidden among the pages of an old book, the portrait of his mother. The yellowed paper held her image, young, smiling, with eyes that seemed to transcend decades and whisper directly to Miguel's soul. Each feature of that face represented the connection that Carlos could never sever, pure and unbreakable maternal love. His fingers trembled as they delicately traced the photograph. Lost memories began to reassemble like a fragmented mosaic. The scent of her hair, the soft touch of her hands, the stories told before bedtime. At that moment, Miguel felt that his mother was not completely absent, but dwelling within each memory, each breath. The storm outside seemed to resonate with Miguel's inner turmoil. Thunder broke the silence, while silent tears streamed down his face. That image was not merely a portrait, but a manifesto of hope, a call for him not to give up on his dreams. In the photograph, his mother wore a simple dress, yet her eyes overflowed with dignity. It was as if, through that aged paper, she instructed him, "Resist, my son. Your courage is greater than any oppression." Each tear shed would be transformed into strength, each moment of pain into learning. Miguel came to realize that his story would not end in the submission imposed by Carlos. That portrait was a portal to his true identity, a testimony that he carried within him the same resilience as his mother. The storm outside began to calm, just as the storms in his heart settled. Something profound surged within him at that moment, a renewing energy, almost supernatural. His determination sprouted like a seed planted in barren soil, ready to challenge all adversities. The portrait of his mother was not merely an image, but a silent commitment to his own destiny. Miguel's life would begin a new narrative from that moment on. The boy who once bent under the weight of oppression now stood tall, supported by the memory of love that Carlos could never erase. His gaze, once dull, regained the brilliance of hope. The discovery of that portrait marked the beginning of his true journey of liberation. The gray sky threatened to collapse when Raphael appeared in the village. His slow, calculated steps revealed an ancient wisdom that contrasted with the desolate landscape. Miguel, watching from a distance, felt something different in the air, a blend of hope and mystery that seemed to envelop that strange traveler. Raphael was not an ordinary man. His deep eyes carried untold stories, and his tattered coat indicated long journeys. Approaching Miguel, he established a silent connection that transcended words, as if he intimately understood the boy's pain. "I know you're suffering," Raphael said softly, "and I've come to offer you a chance for transformation." His voice was like a whisper from nature, laden with hope and mystery. Miguel, initially hesitant, felt a strange connection with the unknown man who seemed to know his soul. The traveler revealed secret knowledge about the connection between humans and nature. He spoke of inner power capable of overcoming any adversity, of a strength that exists beyond the physical, in the realms of courage and resilience. His teachings were not lessons but profound revelations touching the essence of being. "We will build a shelter," Raphael said, "not merely of wood and stone, but of dreams and hope." He proposed a sacred commitment to Miguel, to never give up on his dreams, to cultivate hope even in the darkest moments, and to believe that his story could be rewritten. The proposal was simple and complex at once, to build not just a physical refuge, but an emotional one, a place where Miguel could reconnect with his own dignity, reframe his pain, and find the inner strength to confront Carlos and his oppressions. Raphael asked that Miguel swear to keep his inner flame alive, regardless of external circumstances. A silent oath, sealed not with words, but with the light in the boy's eyes, who finally saw a possibility for transformation. In that moment, something magical happened. The surrounding nature seemed to whisper approval, and the winds carried promises of renewal. Miguel felt that his life was about to change, that this encounter was not accidental, but a calling for his true journey of liberation. A commitment was forged, not with audible words, but with the beating of hope that surged in Miguel's heart. Raphael represented more than a traveler. He was the messenger of a possibility for redemption, the bearer of knowledge capable of freeing imprisoned souls. Transformation was about to begin, and Miguel, with his 12 years marked by pain and submission, finally felt that his story could be different. A new chapter opened, promising courage, love, and the recovery of his lost dignity. Miguel's journey under Raphael's guidance revealed itself as a deep process of inner and outer transformation. The days following the encounter with the enigmatic traveler became a succession of teachings that transcended the physical boundaries of the village, penetrating the innermost layers of the young man's soul. Raphael taught Miguel to see nature not as an external element, but as a living organism intrinsically connected to humanity. Each lesson was a metaphor for overcoming. As they both observed the growth of a small seed, Raphael demonstrated how persistence and care could turn the seemingly fragile into something extraordinarily resilient. Physical challenges intertwined with emotional trials. Miguel learned to build a shelter using ancient techniques, each piece of wood representing a layer of his own inner reconstruction. His hands, once battered by forced labor, began to gain skill and confidence. Each tool handled, each knot tied symbolized his growing autonomy. Nights became sacred moments of reflection. Raphael shared stories of other souls who had overcome adversity, weaving narratives that nourished Miguel's hope. These stories were not merely words, but seeds of courage planted in his wounded heart, nurturing his capacity for resistance and transformation. Self-acceptance emerged as one of Miguel's main internal challenges. The emotional scars left by Carlos did not fade easily. Raphael guided him through breathing exercises and nature connection, teaching him to recognize his intrinsic worth, regardless of the abuses he suffered. The grief for his mother, once an open wound, began to transform into a driving force. Miguel understood that honoring his mother's memory meant cultivating the resilience and kindness she represented. Each tear shed became energy for renewal, each memory fuel for his healing journey. The trials intensified, revealing deep layers of his insecurities. Miguel confronted his fears, not through external confrontations, but through an introspective journey guided by Raphael's wisdom. He learned that true courage does not lie in the absence of fear, but in the ability to persist even when it exists. Nature actively participated in this healing process. The mountains, brooks, and trees seemed to whisper ancestral secrets of overcoming. Miguel gradually understood that his individual story was interconnected with a broader tapestry of existence, where every being has a purpose and an innate capacity for regeneration. Moments of discouragement were embraced as a natural part of the process. Raphael taught that vulnerability is not weakness, but a profound form of courage. Miguel learned to embrace his emotions, understanding that his tears and hesitations were as important as his moments of strength. At the end of each day, Miguel felt he was building more than a physical shelter. He was architecting his own freedom, redrawing the boundaries of his existence, preparing for the ultimate confrontation that destiny had in store for him, carrying with him not just knowledge, but a genuine transformation of his essence. The decisive confrontation erupted like a tempest of repressed emotions. Miguel, with a racing heart, faced Carlos without fear, finally understanding that his true strength did not reside in submission, but in the bravery to defend his dignity. Carlos's eyes, once instruments of intimidation, now met an unexpected resistance. Miguel had changed. His gestures were firmer. His gaze carried a determination that overflowed from the lessons learned from Raphael. The small wooden house had become the stage for a silent battle. Each movement of Miguel represented a declaration of freedom. Each breath carried the energy of years of oppression finally finding release. He would no longer be the cornered child, but the young man who had decided to write his own story. Carlos tried to utilize his usual authoritative tone, but his words encountered a wall of resilience. Miguel did not lower his eyes. He did not tremble. His hands, once tools for exhaustive work, now symbolized his newfound autonomy. The tension was palpable. In that charged environment echoed years of hurt, imposed silences, and humiliations. Miguel understood that this moment transcended a simple confrontation. It represented his emotional liberation, his inner reconstruction. Warben, a firm and serene voice, Miguel expressed his desire for respect, not as a plea but as a declaration. His words were the result of an inner journey, of learnings gathered in hard times. In moments of solitude, in the silent teachings of Raphael, Carlos, confronted by that unexpected transformation, felt his power crumble. The submissive child he once knew had given way to a young man aware of his worth, someone who would no longer accept being diminished or mistreated. The scene unfolded like a dance of liberation. Miguel sought not revenge but justice. His posture communicated forgiveness and determination simultaneously, revealing a maturity that transcended his age. At the peak of the confrontation, it was not physical strength that prevailed, but moral strength. Miguel demonstrated that true courage does not lie in defeating the other, but in freeing oneself internally, in breaking invisible chains of oppression. The silence that followed was more eloquent than any words. Carlos, defeated not by aggression, but by Miguel's inner transformation, understood that his dominance had come to an end. The change was irreversible. Miguel took a deep breath, feeling that this moment marked not only the end of a cycle of oppression, but the beginning of a new journey of self-discovery and freedom. The epilogue revealed itself as a moment of profound transformation, not just for Miguel, but for the entire village. The construction of the magical shelter, guided by Raphael's teachings, symbolized more than a mere building. It represented the reconstruction of hope and dignity. Miguel, now transformed by the knowledge gained, looked toward the horizon with different eyes. His movements reflected a security previously unknown, an inner strength radiating beyond his own existence. The shelter he had built became a reference point, not just physical, but a symbolic one of resistance and rebirth. The community, once silent and passive, began to awaken to a new reality. They saw Miguel not as the submissive young man he once was, but as a symbol of courage. His cultivation techniques, learned from Raphael, gradually transformed the barren land into a fertile ground of possibilities. Carlos, confronted by the change, witnessed his power silently disintegrating. The authority he had once exercised, with brutality, lost ground to Miguel's serene strength. The stepfather, unable to comprehend this new dynamic, helplessly watched the transformation his stepson was provoking. The animals, Miguel's old companions, seemed to celebrate this change. The old horse, once a silent witness to his pain, now walked beside him as an ally, symbolizing the deep connection between the young man and nature. The memories of his mother, once sources of pain, transformed into fuel for his resilience. Miguel felt that his mother's presence accompanied him in every decision, in every act of courage. It was as if his mother, through his journey, finally found the peace and justice that had been denied to her. The village began to flourish, not only in its physical aspect, but in its communal essence. People who had once turned away now sought to learn from Miguel. His cultivation techniques, respect for nature, and capacity for transformation became references. Raphael, the mysterious traveler, observed from afar the work he had helped plant, not as an interloper, but as a silent guardian who knew that true change comes from within. His role had merely been to awaken the strength already present in Miguel. Reconciliation with the past happened organically. Miguel sought not revenge against Carlos, but understanding. His strength resided in the ability to forgive without forgetting, to grow without harboring resentments, to build without destroying. Ultimately, what unfolded was more than an individual story. It was a testament that hope can sprout even in the most barren lands, that courage has the power to transform not only personal destinies, but entire communities. Miguel had become not just the protagonist of his own story, but a beacon of inspiration for everyone around him. The conclusion of Miguel transcends the pain experienced. Reflecting on his journey, he understands that his mother's love and his own resilience were beacons of hope. Overcoming was not about defeating Carlos, but about reframing his scars, turning them into inner strength. His story reveals that true courage arises from the ability to love, even after suffering deeply.